Cedarwood. I just wanted to pop on here really quick and read you a story. I miss seeing you all in the library and I miss reading to you, so I just wanted to bring you a story this week and you can listen to it at home instead of being in the library. We're going to read Rosie Revere, Engineer. It is by Andrea Betty. I like this story because she is an inventor and she uses her creative mind. And I'm going to challenge you all to do that as well after we read our story. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Green's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. She's right there. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed, where they'd never been seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye. She made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser, and helium pants. The uncle she loved most was zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head, from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps pythons away. There's a python. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud, but Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. "I love it," Fred hooted. "Oh, truly I do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day, kept her dreams to herself. And that's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great Aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and the goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. "The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to my old lady dreams." That night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. She could build a gizmo to help Aunt fly. She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake all through the night. So when the dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The helio cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled around and around, and then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned around to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere. Who thought, "Oh no, never, not ever again, will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." She turned around to leave, But then great Aunt Rose grabbed a hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. You did it! Hooray! It's perfect! First try! This great flop is over. It's time for the next. Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. I failed, said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed. Yes, said her great aunt. It crashed. That is true. But first, it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew. You're brilliant. First flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and get on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away in its bed, and Rosie tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear, to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proud as Rosie Revere. And that's the end, friends. I like this story because she learned to not give up. She learned that she needed to use her brain, use her creative brain, and she created something neat. So I want to challenge you at home if you have something to build with. Most of you have maybe some blocks, or you have some Legos, or maybe you have an empty tissue box. I want to see what you can build out of these things. Build something grand, build something unique that you might be thinking of today. And if you want to share it with me, you can take a picture of it and send it to my email. I would love to see what you're building and what you're doing. And I would just love to see your faces. So I hope you are well out there, and we will see you soon. Bye, Hawks.